I'm thrilled today's guest. I'm going to do a little fanboy thing for her. This is Scott Galloway, who has become a really important voice. I don't want to say in our culture and kind of who we are and just how we live as humans and what's right, what's wrong, offering help, guidance, information, clarity. As I said, become a really important voice. His newest book, #1 Times New York bestseller, Notes on Being a Man. Of course, he's co-host with the great Kara Swisher on Pivot. He's got the Professor G podcast. He's got the No Mercy, No Malice newsletter. He's kind of everywhere. And as I said, a good voice for mankind these days. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Donnie, it's always good to see you.
So let's get right into it. Just a couple of things that just right off the top that I just yesterday was reading that you had an observation about the Super Bowl and AI ads that I missed that was so insightful that you said basically that, well, I'll let you say it about crypto and about .com and about AIs and kind of a harbinger of possibly things to come this year.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't care about sports. I played sports in college, and since then I decided I was going to allocate all of my bandwidth to working out and sweating versus watching other people sweat. So I just don't care about the Super Bowl. But I do find I try and find economic trends that are indicated by the Super Bowl, and kind of found a couple things. One, if you look at the percentage, it was basically the AI Bowl, and that was over a quarter of the ads were for AI, and the last time that happened was in 2022 when they called it the Crypto Bowl, when a quarter of the ads were from firms like Binance and FTX. That was the year that crypto came undone and the head of Binance was sentenced to prison and FTX went bankrupt. And then you have to go all the way back to find that same ratio of 25% or more. You have to go all the way back to January of 2020. When it was pets.com and amazon.com, and look what happened then. So
shooting hamsters out of cannons. I mean, you remember
that's right. Yeah. My guess is you produced or directed a couple of those commercials.
We had a Britannica.com on the Super Bowl. there was something called Britannica.com.
That's an oxymoron.
Exactly.
Britannica and .com.
That's exactly. They were trying to contemporize themselves. Didn't quite work.
But Amazon. I mean, Amazon, if you bought $10,000 with Amazon in November of 99, by I think the middle of 2001, it was worth $400. So 2000, when we had that ratio of .com advertising, the markets imploded. Anyways, long-winded way of saying if economic history repeats itself, this is the year that AI valuations experience a real drawdown. And the other economic kind of insight I would glean from it is it seems there's been a dramatic tectonic shift in market value from the betting sites, the BetMGMs,
sure,
to the speculation sites.
Interesting.
And that is Flutter is screwed, but Kalshi probably doubled in value. I heard $800 million was wagered on Kalshi during the Super Bowl.
The other thing that happened in the Super Bowl, and I can't talk about this enough. I think it was what I call a tell moment, the Bad Bunny, and I've talked about this, that where you came out on that I think says so much about who you are, where you are, what you believe. It was, to me, a very, very seminal moment for all of us, for reflection on who we are in this country.
Yeah, and I always go to the economics. Roger Goodell is a great fiduciary. I mean, can you imagine trying to manage, I don't know if it's 28 NFL teams, 28 multi-billionaires
32,
in their 70s,
and their egos,
32 billionaires in their 70s and 80s who all are very successful and probably have pretty strong opinions.
Yeah.
And his job is to, take their $6, $7, $8 billion investment and make it worth $12 billion for their wife or whoever inherits it when they pass away in 3 or 4 years. And he does a great job. This was a brilliant economic move because just look at the numbers. He's the most popular artist in the world. And for the first time, 50% of people under the age of 18 are non-white. So regardless of your politics, it was just a smart pick.
Yeah.
Like put the progressive shit or the conservative shit or the Kid Rock or whatever it is, just put it away and go, this was a smart economic move for a for-profit entity called the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to globalize, understanding what the Hispanic market is. It was actually the safe choice. The interesting thing, he took so much shit. It was the corporate choice to make. It was so interesting.
100%.
Now let's get right into something you're very passionate about right now. Your unsubscribe kind of mission. What I love about it, first off, we're going to get into it, is that you're giving people action to solve anxiety. You're actually coming up with a solution. We'll see how it works. That's like, wait a second. You can do something instead of just whining, instead of just complaining, instead of just being, and I think that in and of itself is new math.
Yeah, well, you started a business, I've started a business. And the key to success in America, I think, is to risk public failure. It's how you get a mate that's more attractive than you. It's how you start a business where you get to live an incredible life. And most of us aren't willing to risk public failure. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten very good at stating my opinions, but the music hasn't matched the words as much. I haven't taken real risks with my actions. And I was so upset when Secretary Noem came out and described Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse taking care of veterans, as a domestic terrorist and someone who was intent on massacring federal agents. I literally felt like that was peeing on his grave the day after he was buried.
Yeah.
And I thought, I really want to do something. Okay, I have a bit of a footprint. And I think I discovered a weapon hiding in plain sight against ICE and the Trump administration. And that is that what Trump responds to is not protests to the courts or shaming from the media. Or even the Congress, which has become the Duma at this point. He responds to movements in markets. He walked back the annexation of Greenland rhetoric and tariffs when the S&P and the bond markets collapsed. And so I thought, okay, what's the string to pull on the markets? The string to pull on the markets is 10 companies represent 40% of the S&P, and they're all very vulnerable to a reduction in the growth rates of their subscription revenues. So let me give you an example. Economic strikes aren't a new idea, but if I said stop buying groceries, such that the head of Kroger's calls the president and complains, Kroger's trades at 0.3 times revenues. So you'd have to get $10,000 in impact and market cap on Kroger, you'd have to convince 5 families to stop buying groceries for a year. The average family buys $6,000 in groceries a year. Or you can cancel your one ChatGPT Pro account, $240. OpenAI is trading at 40 times revenues, and that's a $10,000 impact or hit to market cap by canceling and going to the free option of ChatGPT. So I put together a website. I have links to how it's easy to unsubscribe to all of the big tech platforms. And what you're going to find, like me, is that you have 4 AT&T accounts, including 3 that are for iPads and BlackBerries that are in a landfill for the last 8 years. That you're paying $199 a year to Amazon One, a healthcare service you signed up for in 2000 to get a prescription of Paxlovid. That you spent, and this is a story of privilege. I don't have a car. I spent $35,000 on Uber last year. I don't need to be spending that much.
I saw that. That blew me away. Yeah.
I don't need to be spending that much on Uber. I could lease, including auto insurance and parking, a G-Wagon, a Range Rover, or an i7. And I realize that's a story of privilege. You're going to find that maybe you don't need Apple TV Plus. Maybe you're going to find, like me, that you had 3 HBO Max subscriptions. So I'm trying to figure out a way to give consumers or send a signal. This is the maximum impact with a minimal destruction to your it is a real commitment to go protest in 20-degree weather in Minneapolis, and more power to those people. It is a real commitment to knock on doors and get people's registered to vote. And those people are doing God's work. This is, if you want to be part of something, you want to save a little bit of money, and you want to send potentially a very strong signal to the marketplace, then go to resist and unsubscribe, and you're going to find you can save money and send a very strong signal to the markets and to these companies who have been enabling Trump and enabling ICE.
And how's the reaction been?
I'll ask you. I'll tell you what AI is saying. I'm in the center of it, so I think it's going great. I've heard from about 20% of the CEOs.
Right, I read that.
They've called me.
And what do they say? What do they say when they call you?
Oh, they're all very fucking charming. You know these guys.
Yeah, these guys are
Scott,
lizards.
Really respect your movement. I'm unhappy with what's going on, but as you know, I'm a fiduciary for shareholders. What would you suggest I do? And I'm like, and I respond, I get it. It's hard. Trump is very savvy in how to be an autocrat. You punish your enemies. Anyone who goes first, you punish. And anyone who shows up to your Melania premiere, you carve out of tariffs on on China, right? This is coin operated. I'll make Tim Cook worth $3 billion, not $2 billion, if you let me use you as my fucking bitch. Yeah. And that is what he's doing right now. He is prostrating these people, and they're going along with it because their attitude is, let me wait this guy out. Yeah. I have an obligation to shareholders.
And I'm doing God's work also if I'm Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I got a lot of employees. A lot of people depend upon me. And what I say to them is, what's the point of having all this money? You're going to be dead. Most of these guys are in their 50s and 60s. I'm like, we're going to be dead soon. What do you want to say to your kids on your deathbed?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do in the war, Dad? That's the question, right? Do you believe what's going? What I say to them is the following: I want you to say out loud what you're saying to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how's it going? I upload all my site analytics, all my social media, everything to AI. I'm fascinated with AI. We were on track to get 50,000 unsubs. In the last 4 days, we've seen a surge because all of a sudden, broadcast media is having me on.
Yeah. I've seen
and we're now projected. Yeah, I say I'm not a media whore. I'm a media hoa. I'm everywhere right now. But AI is saying we're going to get 150. We're on track to inspire 150 to 200,000 unsubs across big tech in February.
Wow.
So
okay,
it feels good.
Yeah.
Is it going to change anything? No. One of the most successful protests in history, the Montgomery bus strike, there was a cinematic moment where a woman refused to give up her seat. But actually, what resulted in the segregation, the ending of segregation on municipal transportation was Dr. King organized a year-long carpooling infrastructure where finally the municipal bus service said, we're losing $2 million a year. We've got to stop this. So what I'm saying to everybody is be one of the 10,000 cuts that pushes back on ICE. And I doubt I'm going to get the president to reverse course based on this movement. What I know I'm doing, I know these CEOs are talking about it. I know the people within the company are talking about it. And I know I'm going to take out $250 million to $1 billion in market cap from these companies. And quite frankly, it just feels good to be doing something.
That's where your words, I thought the exact words were action solves anxiety or anxiety absorbs action. That really struck me.
Well, it feels good to be a part of something. And I feel like there's so many of us that have all this keyboard courage and find our backbone when a ring light is on. But it's like, okay, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
And myself included, right? I respect entrepreneurs who put themselves up for public failure. I respect people who, go out in 20-degree weather and give up a Saturday with their kids in Little League. And I found that the ratio of my rhetoric to my actual action had gotten out of balance.
Yeah.
And I needed to restore that balance and take a public risk. And you know what? If I'd started this website and no one showed up and some people made fun of me on Twitter, you know what? Who gives a fuck?
Right.
I'm going to be dead soon, and so are they.
Yeah. I wrote one of my books. I have a chapter, Failure is Your Friend. I mean, you can't, that's just that you have to understand. That's what separates. Our politics line up fairly similarly. I'm just curious, and we don't have to kind of go, we all know the details in terms of where you stand on things. Are you feeling better or worse about things versus the day Trump got elected? The second time.
Oh, worse.
Yeah.
Worse. I didn't anticipate.
No, you didn't? I kind of sort of. There's nothing that's kind of surprised me, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see that we would be shipping people to detention centers outside of the country such that they wouldn't have the legal protection of the markets they're arrested in. That's literally the definition of a concentration camp. I didn't see a secret mass police loyal to one person, not any institution, and threats by the person overseeing them, the Secretary of Homeland Security, saying that we'll withdraw ICE if you give us access to the voter rolls. I did not see that coming. I did not see excuses by Trump and his acolytes justifying a mother being shot in the face 3 times. I just didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. In fairness, I didn't see that. I'm very concerned because Trump, one thing about Trump, he's authentic. He tells you what he's going to do. I'm concerned about our elections, midterms, of having free and fair elections. I just think it's being teed up. And clearly right now, if the elections were held, the Republicans would be in trouble. What's your take on that?
Well, it appears I don't think the ICE actions have anything to do with immigration. I think it's performative masculinity and strength. I do think David Frum summarized it perfectly. If progressives won't enforce the border, fascists will. Mm-hmm. We screwed up. 250,000 people in December of 23 coming across the border by raising the right hand and saying asylum. That was just stupid. And Vice President Harris, who was charged with the southern border, did a terrible job. And I think the Trump administration deserves some credit for enforcing the southern border.
Absolutely.
But what they've decided to do is bring the chaos and enforcement of the border to every town in America. And I don't think this is any longer about immigration. I think it's about terror. And quite frankly, I think it's about normalizing violence and enforcement action in places you usually don't see it, such that they can create intimidation and enforcement action to their advantage at polling booths. I see that, and they've already come out and said we want to federalize the elections, we want voter rolls. So I see this very simply as them prepping under the auspices of immigration to try and pervert the election. I have faith that Americans are really going to gag on that.
I do too. I do. I think that's
Democrats.
the line. And everybody's always kind of where the line moves, and this is going to happen. That's going to. I firmly believe that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where the stand happens. And hopefully, I'm right. Hopefully, we're both right.
Hope so.
Let's drift into something that you're so passionate about, and you've been so important, your voice and young men in this country. You anybody that knows anything about you knows what you brought to the table with your book Notes on Being a Man. As I said, #1 time New York's bestseller. Where did you kind of first come across? I don't want to say the idea, but when did it first go aha? Because it's now in hindsight, it's like duh, but it was such a light bulb, and it shined such a light on what is such a fundamental, gargantuan problem with who we are. Where's the etymology of this?
Yeah, there was a moment, I think it was March of 2021, a kid named Alex Kearns, a sophomore at Oklahoma State, was trading options on Robinhood. And errantly, Robinhood miscalculated his account and sent him an email saying, you owe us $600,000. And he furiously started sending emails to Robinhood saying, what's going on? No customer service. No one got back to him. And by the morning, he decided to take his own life because he left a note saying, I didn't want to indebt my family with this. And it ends up he didn't owe that money. And I reached out to the Kearns family, and I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole around young men and suicide and found out things such as, if you go into a morgue and there's 5 people who've died by suicide, 4 are men. And then it just led to a bunch of other stuff. 1 in 3 men under the age of 25 are still living at home. Only 1 in 3 men under the age of 30 is in a relationship. Only 45% of men under the age of 25 have never asked a woman out in person. 62% of men under the age of 30 have stopped dating. So we don't have a homeless or an opiate crisis. We have a male homeless and a male opiate crisis, 3 times more likely to be addicted, 7 times more likely to be addicted to gambling, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated. What it ends up, I just went down this rabbit hole. What it ends up is that boys, while being physically stronger, are emotionally and neurologically much weaker than girls.
I've always felt that way.
And because, you have kids, because you see the difference. Do you have boys and girls?
I have girls.
Okay, so if you had boys, you would see the difference. When my kid has a Halloween party, 15 years old, the boys are dopes. They won't look you in the eye. They're fine. They're dopes.
They're a completely different species as far as development. It's not even close.
Whereas there's 3 or 4 15-year-old girls who could be the junior senator from Pennsylvania. I mean, they are just so light years ahead. But what you have is, because of the unearned, unfair privilege that you and I registered, we're holding young men accountable. And that is, we had so many unfair hurricane-like winds in our sails, being born white heterosexual males in the 60s, that there's a lack of empathy for the 19-year-old male with a lack of economic prospects, a lack of romantic prospects, raised by a single mother who does not have advantage. You could argue maybe even has disadvantage right now. 60-40 female to male college attendance. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to go 2 to 1 female to male graduate. And you think, well, okay, we leveled the playing field and women are blowing by them. I got it. More power to them. But the reality is, young men are not connecting to school, work, or relationships. And when young men don't have the guardrails of relationships, they become much more prone to misogynistic content, nationalistic content. When women aren't in a relationship, they tend to pour that energy back into their work and their friend networks. Mm-hmm. When men don't have a relationship, they tend to pour that energy into conspiracy theory, porn, online gaming. And I worry that at the hands of the deepest pocketed, most talented firms in history, that they are trying to, because they've connected shareholder value to this, evolve a new species of asocial, asexual males. And if you look at the darkest moments in history and the most destructive organizations in the world, whether it's 30s Germany or ISIS or the Taliban, they all have one thing in common, and that is a disproportionate number of young men who have a lack of economic or romantic prospects. And I see that happening in America. So I stumbled on this. And also just on a personal note, I very easily could have been one of those guys.
Yeah.
I was raised by a single immigrant mother, lived and died as secretary. I didn't have a lot of economic or romantic prospects in my 20s, but America loved me. I got assisted lunch. I got Pell Grants. I got into UCLA when it had a 74% admissions rate. I got into Berkeley Graduate School with a 2.27 undergraduate GPA. I got to start internet companies because of the capital and the investments, forward-leaning investments, middle-class households made in DARPA, this incredible thing called the internet. And immigrants built my companies. I feel as if the reason I'm here right now with Donnie Deutsch, every reason I'm here is under attack. And especially around young men. Empathy is not a zero-sum game. We can still recognize the enormous challenges women still face, non-whites still face, while recognizing young men especially have fallen further faster than any group. I went to the Democratic National Convention, a parade of special interest groups talking about the very real problems that special interest group still faces. Not one mention of the group that has fallen furthest fastest, and that is young men. And that is why we lost the election, because in this country, there are still a lot of women who will vote for who they perceive as in the best interest of their husbands and their sons. And if you look at the three groups, and I'll wrap up this word salad, if you look at the three groups that pivoted hardest from blue to red, 2020 to 2024, it was one, young people who have seen an enormous transfer of economic power from their generation to ours. Two, Latinos who don't want to be categorized as a group. We probably should stop tracking them as a group.
Yeah.
And then three, 45 to 64-year-old mothers. And my thesis is that's the boys' mothers.
Yeah.
You don't give a shit about sovereignty in Ukraine or transgender rights when your son is in the basement playing video games and vaping. So I think struggling young men and the Democrats' refusal to acknowledge this as a real problem is the reason why we have a strong man as president right now.
The two of your prescriptions for the problem, and they really hit me, is number one, protect a woman. It's your job to take care of and protect a woman. And number two, be fucking kind. Be fucking kind. If I give my children, and I have daughters, one lesson, be kind. And an anthem more than ever that we need now.
I go back to what's the most basic thing in the universe. The universe wants us to prosper. The universe has decided that we're going to create a series of incentives such that the species prospers. If you're in a car that's burning or an apartment that's burning and you think, I'm going to burn alive, if you manage to escape, nothing feels better than that moment. It feels really good to eat. Really good food feels really good because the universe has said you need to eat to survive. Sex feels awesome because propagating is key to our species. So I go to sex. What are the three things that women find most attractive in a mate? And we don't like to talk about it, but there's so much research confirming this.
It's the truth.
Number one is your ability to signal resources. And the key word is signal. If you have a Range Rover and a Panerai, that's a great signal. But you can also signal resources by having your shit together.
Potential.
Don't be that idiot.
Yeah.
Don't be that idiot ordering a bottle of Grey Goose at 2 a.m. You have shit to do the next day. I am going to vocational school to learn how to install energy efficient HVAC heaters. I'm going to buy a baby boomer's business. I have a plan. I'm in shape, and you're not going to be attracted to my big muscles. You're attracted to the fact that I can commit to something and I'm disciplined. Number two, intellect. And the person that makes the best decisions for the tribe is more likely to survive. And the fastest way to communicate intellect is humor. I've said, if you can make a woman laugh, you can kiss her. Mm-hmm. Intellect and humor. Be well-read. Try and be smart. You don't have to be funny. You can't tell someone to be funny, but laugh out loud at other people's jokes. Be nice and pleasant to be around. And then the number three thing that women are attracted to in a mate is the secret weapon, because most men know about the first two, but they don't know about the third. Kindness. That's your secret weapon. Do you do good things for people with no reciprocal expectation? Do you help people that can't help you back? Do you have good manners? Do you treat service staff well? And if that doesn't come naturally to you, it doesn't to me. I'm embarrassed to admit it. I wasn't a kind young man. Start a kindness practice where every day you practice acts of kindness. And before you know it, like practicing golf or tennis, you start to become kinder. That is a man's secret weapon for, quite frankly, attracting a mate. Have your shit together. You need to be a provider. And then once you have strength and skills, you immediately move to protection. The sexiest thing in the world is one, follow-up questions, and two, making women feel safe. Every father has an obligation to his son to teach him how to express romantic interest while making the other person feel safe. That's the shooting match.
You're putting so much important stuff out there. I want a personal question. Give me a moment where you said, you know what, all this stuff I'm kind of talking about, oh, it did this. A moment where somebody said to you, you know what, you taught me this and I told my son this. Or a woman who said, I'd love to know a moment because clearly your stuff is cutting through. Give me a human moment where it kind of said, you know what, I guess people are listening.
It's a generous question. I hear from a lot of single mothers who are feminists who say, you know, who let me talk to their sons and trust me with helping their sons or having a few conversations with their sons. That's very flattering. And more than anything, you know, I'm trying to raise good men, and I see every day, you know, I always say my kids are getting less awful every day, but there's just some personal moments where I see acts of kindness from my kids. Whether I'd like to think that, you know, you can't tell your kids to do anything. They just sort of model you. Yeah. But if the greatest motivation I've ever had to be a better man is recognizing my kids are going to model me. I try and be really kind and good to their mother.
I feel the same way about my daughters on the reverse side of that coin. Yeah.
They're watching.
Yeah.
I don't know if they may not be listening, but they're watching.
And whatever you think they're taking in, they're taking in more. They're so from the youngest age that we can't even comprehend.
And so it has made me, I mean, I'm not proud to say this. First 40 years of my life, I want more money. I want more relevance. I want hotter women in my life. I want more amazing experiences. I want more interesting, powerful people as my friends. Me. And having kids for me was transformative because I realized, okay,
same thing.
I've got to set some sort of example for them, and I've got to pretend to be the person my dog thinks I am. So
I never heard you say that.
Well,
I love that. I love that.
We can all evolve.
Yeah.
We can all, you know, the past is the most immutable thing in the world. There's nothing you can do about it. The future is the most mutable thing. Like, you know, be that man. So anyways, it was a very generous question. I hear from a lot of single mothers, many of whom are feminists. A lot of feminists push back on my content early. Now I've heard from a lot of them, especially the ones with sons, saying, you're right. I need to get men involved in his life. He is different than my daughter. I need to recognize that. And that's not a slight against women. But my biggest quote unquote fans are young men. They high five me.
Yeah.
My biggest supporters and the most relevant supporters for me are single mothers who call me.
Yeah. Just bridging two things we talked about, politics and masculinity. I feel it's really important for the Democrats to insert some masculinity into their brand. I would love your thoughts on that.
100%.
Yeah.
Stop talking about words being violent. Stop being such snowflakes. I want someone who's really fucking strong. I want someone who runs long distances and lifts heavy weights in the gym and in their mind.
100%.
I want someone in shape. I want someone who isn't afraid to approach a strange woman and be persistent. I want someone who goes for jobs. I want someone who is just aggressive and strong and finds a mate and has real fidelity and protection and treats women really, really well while recognizing I want a man who would never allow a woman to pay on a date.
Yeah. Yeah.
My kids push back on that. Dad, that's so boomer.
No, it's not.
You're around a woman.
I've never met a woman that doesn't agree with that, by the way. I've never met a woman that doesn't want
Oh, they'll say, no, that's boomer.
That's what they want.
And then, by the way, anyone who doesn't pay for them, they are never going out with again.
Yeah.
Every species, every mammal has a courtship ritual. Women's time is more valuable than men's. They have a shorter fertility window. The downside of sex is much greater. Your sexual currency grows, theirs declines. The way you restore that asymmetry, the way you demonstrate valor, the way you respect the fact that her fertility window is shorter and also, quite frankly, you respect the fact it probably costs every woman $200 or $300 to go on a date.
Sure,
the visit to Sephora, the hair extensions.
Blow dry, right.
My beauty routine is throwing water on my face.
Yeah, I put water on my face, I brush my teeth, and I put a little moisturizer on, and I'm out the door in 4 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty much it.
Yeah. You pay for everything. My oldest son is like, that's so boomer. And I'm like, trust me on this. No woman you ever split the check with is ever going to kiss you. and also encourage men to go out. I want a guy that drinks.
And a guy that takes control. The other thing I've learned from women over the years, even the strongest woman wants a man who can take control. I cannot tell you over the years the compliments I've gotten from women. I hate when a guy calls and goes, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go?" And I don't know if this is going to be. I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but it's like I've yet to meet the woman. I've met a lot of women in my life that don't respond to that. Empathetic control.
Let me light up your comments with pushback, because I'm at a point where it's like, okay, you want to speak your mind, right? This whole notion that women want a sensitive man, total fucking bullshit.
Bullshit.
That just leaves two people in the car crying and the parallel parking spot empty. Okay? This is what I think, and the research shows women want. They want a man that notices their life.
Mm-hmm.
I want a career too. I need you to notice that I am picking up the slack here around emotional labor. I need you to notice what's important to me, even if you don't think it's important. I need you to notice how hard how much value I am bringing to this relationship, for God's sakes. They want, in my opinion, but when I heard my son planning a date with a woman, and I immediately sat him down. He said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You come up with a plan and you say, "This is what we're doing."
Does that work?
Does it sound?
Does that work? Yeah. And then you comment, because you're not, it's not this
What do you
dominant
think?
thing. Yeah, that's it. But
what do you think?
So before I let you go, you're so generous with your time. I know there's always stuff percolating in that head of yours. What's kind of the next thing that we're going to take on? Because as I follow your career, you kind of go on these missions, and I'm just curious if there's anything percolating that you haven't talked about yet.
That's another generous question. I'm really focused on this resist and unsubscribe moment right now.
Yeah.
And trying to send as strong a signal as possible, not just to big tech and the administration, but to other people that the most radical act of activism in a capitalist society is non-participation, and they have more power than they think. And then, Donnie, I'm moving back to the U.S., and I'm going to spend a disproportionate amount of my time, treasure, and talent trying to nod to the American values that gave me so much. And I'm going to try and help flip the House. And I'm going to work very hard on getting a Democrat back in the White House again. My mission for the next 2 years and 11 months is to make America America again. It's overdue. I've taken a lot more out of America. I've gotten a lot more out of America than I've given. And so I have a debt, and I'm going to do my best over the next kind of 35 odd months to begin paying back that debt.
Amen. I meant everything I said when I introduced you. You are truly one of the good guys, and I'm just a fan, beyond a friend, fan, and a cohort. I just think what you're doing is great. The book is Notes on Being a Man. It's a #1 Times bestseller. Scott Galloway, keep up doing God's work.
Thanks, brother. Congrats on all your success.
You too. Right back at you, man. You stay well, okay?
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.